Good morning, everyone. Hope you're keeping okay. And it's good to see a little bit of bright weather and sunshine, isn't it? This is Ash Wednesday. It's the beginning of the season of Lent, the beginning of the preparations as we move towards Easter. And I can hardly believe that I'm saying it's coming round to Easter again. And we are still where we are in the middle of all this. But it has been good to be able to share these thoughts with you, and we'll continue to do that right up until Easter, going through Mark and finishing on Good Friday, God willing. So we're going to read this morning from Mark chapter 7 and verses 31 to 37. Then he returned from the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee, in the region of the Decapolis. And they brought to him a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment. They begged him to lay his hand on him. And taking him aside from the crowd privately, he put his fingers into his ears, and after spitting, touched his tongue. And looked up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, Ephphatha, that is, be opened. And his ears were opened, and his tongue was released, and he spoke plainly. And Jesus charged them to tell no one. But the more he charged them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, He has done all things well. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. I said, I can hardly believe that we're still here. We're still in the middle of this, nearly a year on. There are signs of hope, and it's good to see that. But we are still waiting. We are still waiting in the midst of the current lockdown for someone to say to schools, you can open. Waiting for someone to say to shops, restaurants, gyms, hairdressers, churches, you can open. Someone with authority to come along and say, open up, it's time to open up. The whole point of Mark's Gospel is to show that Jesus is someone with incredible authority. Certainly the whole point of it up until this point is to show that Jesus is someone with incredible authority. We've seen that in the pages of the Gospel as we've gone through it. His authority over disease, demons, nature, sin, death. All those things have been shown to us, demonstrated to us and to his disciples. And all these things demonstrate an authority that suggests who he is. That he is Messiah, that he is the Christ. And this most recent miracle that we've just read about as he heals the deaf man speaks to that as well. Isaiah 35, which is a messianic passage in the Old Testament, which is clearly talking about what God will do and how his kingdom will be demonstrated, says this, Isaiah 35 verse 5, Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap like a deer, and the tongue of the mute sing for joy. And see all those things? He's already healed a lame man way back in Mark 2, the man who was lowered down through the roof. He's just now healed a man who is deaf and who has trouble speaking. And a few verses later on in chapter 8, he will heal a man who is blind. And all these things point to who he is. So that's one theme of the gospel so far. The other theme running alongside it is the apparent inability of the disciples to grasp who he is, what's going on. So when he wakes up and calms the storm, they turn to each other and say, who is this? When actually they should know who it is. When he walks to them on the water, they're terrified because they think it's a ghost before they actually realize who it is. there is an inability here, even among the disciple group, those closest to him, to grasp what's really going on. You see the miracles, calming of the storm, the feeding of the 5,000, which should be bringing back to them ideas of God providing bread for his children in the desert, in the Exodus story. But they still don't get it. They still don't understand. They are still deaf and blind to the reality of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. They are still deaf and blind to the reality that this is not just the Messiah who was promised. He is all that, but he is even more. He is the one like a Son of Man, the one given divine authority. He is the Son of God. And it's not actually a surprise that they fail to grasp it or fail to understand it completely. Because actually, there is only one way that anyone ever gets it. There's only one way that anyone ever truly understands who Jesus is and why he's come. And it's the way that he opens the man's ears here in this passage. It is when Jesus, by his Spirit, says, be opened. When he opens ears and minds and hearts to hear and understand and receive the gospel, that is when it all clicks for us. That's when it all falls into place. I wonder if you can remember when you really heard the gospel for the first time. Maybe you'd grown up in church, maybe you'd been involved in church all your life, and maybe it was somewhere, maybe it was as a teenager, maybe it was as an adult, maybe it was some other place, maybe it was on a camp or a mission, or maybe it was at a Christian event or something, when you felt like your ears were being opened, when you felt like you were hearing it for the very first time. I wonder if you can remember that moment, if you had a moment like that. Well, if you had, give thanks. Give thanks that he has done that for you, that he has opened your ears, that he has opened your heart and your mind to receive his grace, to receive the good news. And pray for your heart and your mind to be opened more and more and more every day, so that you grasp more and more of his grace and his love for you, and you want to share it with the world. When Jesus opens our hearts, opens our minds, opens our ears to hear and understand the message, it's a wonderful gift of grace in itself. And it's something that we need to treasure, and also something that gives us a responsibility to go out and to live and proclaim this incredible message of good news to the world around us. God bless.